and I mean, I'm not, no Lishon Hara or anything, but my neighbor next to me is Jewish, and she has a daughter, but her family, I guess, whenever they moved to the States, left Judaism behind, unfortunately. And so her daughter was trying to talk to my son about, Christianity and stuff. And so I really had to break everything down for him and explain to him that, you know, whenever the Messiah comes, he will not be a demigod. And, it just tried to he will be human and, things of that nature. It was just really interesting. But for him, it sounded so strange to him that God would have a kid with somebody here on earth. You know what I mean? That didn't even make sense to him. He was like, what?
That's good.
Yeah.
That's
he was like,
good.
yeah. So I was very thankful for that. I hope it sticks.
Oh man.
Wow, what an interesting discussion. That's amazing. So we have Christelle and Dixie and Jenny and Corey, and I know a few people are Hanukkah partying or doing something else. So it might be a smaller group tonight, but it is Hanukkah, and Hanukkah is a time of miracles. It's a time of light over darkness. It's definitely a universal message. And, we say in those days in the time that, in these days in this time, meaning these are the same days and it's now. So whatever the energy is, just as over Passover, it's the energy of redemption. And over Shavuot, it's the energy of giving the Torah. And so over Hanukkah, it's definitely the energy of the victory of light over darkness, the victory of the few over the many, the pure over the impure. That's the time of miracles. And the miracles were created by the self-sacrifice for God. So I thought it'd be nice as a little Hanukkah warm-up to our class if we could just stop and think and share miracles we've experienced in our lives, because I'm positive that we've all experienced miracles. God's there for every one of us. And what do we mean a miracle? When God's hand is more overt. There's things that are good and we say thank you for, and then there are things that are miraculous that are not as we would expect in the natural order, and that's what we're going to call a miracle. And it's interesting because when the miracles have to squash into nature, of course, we're not experiencing the splitting of the sea, but in our lives, when we see things and we know that's a miracle, it's in a sense a higher level of God's energy. That it came all the way down to the box of nature. It's squashed into that box of nature, and still God's going beyond nature. He's within nature, but he's going beyond nature. And it's creating for us a miracle. So who would like to get started first? Who would like to share something? Sounds like Dixie and Christelle were already sharing. Would like to share something about the miracles they can thank God for, because thanking God is a very important thing. We actually say, they'll mention the idea of the Mashiach, the Messiah, Mashiach coming. And one of the ways to usher in the revelation of Mashiach is thanking God for miracles. Being aware of God's hand in our life. Because any miracle you're going to experience, there's somebody else in this world that will say, and we're saying, no, that was God. And that was a miracle. And that's really living a Mashiach life, because in the times of Mashiach, we're going to look around the world, look at ourselves, look at our world, and we're going to see God. God revealed, God uncovered, God completely exposed. And anytime there's that miracle, it's sort of like, again, God breaking through the bounds of nature. And even the splitting of the sea, God did a very interesting miracle then when he split the sea. He split, it says, every water in the world split at the same time. All the water split. Which on one hand was a way of informing the world something weird's going on, look into it. This was before the age of social media or telecommunication. And through this, the world found out about the splitting of the sea. But there were those people in the world that said, well, it happened to be the Jews were in the wrong place at the right time. But listen, all the waters in the world split then. There was something weird going on with, the magnetic fields. And all the water split, and so it happened to be just when the Jews needed it, the water split. It just happened to be, if they weren't there, the water would have also split. So God set up a scenario which on one hand informed the world of the miracle, at the same time gave the world the chance to, if they would, dispute it. Say, miracle, a natural fluke. And the Jews happened to be at that exact time. It's a pretty big stretch, but I've had times when I'm speaking to people about like the miracle of the fall of communism without any bloodshed, this mega evil empire falling, and they'll say, no, it just happened. The soldiers weren't paid properly. So what does that have to do with anything? I don't know. Somehow, communism fell. So in our days, we also have, miracles of the Gulf War, miracles of the fall of communism, and people that want to take God out of the picture. But we can always do the opposite and actually uncover him in the tiniest detail of our life. And that's living with Mashiach. And that's living with Chanuka. So who would like to share? Dixie?
I will share, if that's okay. I guess miracles are around us every day, especially living on the ranch. And you see so many miracles, just little miracles that we don't even see. But my miracle that I thank God for every day is when I wake up and still have life. And we have breath and air to breathe where we live that is clean compared to a lot of places in the world. We have food to eat and we have so much that other countries don't have. It's just, to me, life is a miracle, and that's life.
That's very true. That's very true. That's that waking up in the morning and appreciating another day of life and appreciating the miracle of life and appreciating that you have all your needs and more. God gives us bountifully. And yeah, we live in a very generous time that all our needs are met and we're not hungry and we have our needs and we can even help others with theirs. And that is definitely the hand of God. I agree. Someone else would like to share a miracle they've experienced? Not taking away from Dixie's, but hopefully everyone has what to share.
I can't think of anything specific other than I think it's a miracle that my mind has been opened to where I'm at today on my journey in this life is a miracle to me.
It is. I assume that's the universal miracle here for all of you. All of you share Dixie's miracle, and all of you share Corey's miracle, and that's true. That's for sure the A1 miracle. Maybe Dixie's is A1. I don't know which is A1, which is A2. That God gave us our physical life, and that God gave us our spiritual life. And we're grateful for both. I don't know which one we're going to put first, but we're grateful to have a physical life. But we want a physical life worth living, and a life that's not worth living isn't a life. So we're grateful for that spiritual journey that God put you on, that God opened your eyes to. That's for sure. I absolutely agree. Absolutely. Christelle, Jenny, would you like to share a miracle you'd like to thank God for?
I was going to say, I've been in different, I told you, I've known people that were in like the Tehillim group and like Danielle and, for years. And it's like, I never was able to I can't do anything during the week. It's just impossible. And so like whenever Danielle invited me to this group, I was like, oh, that's a Saturday. I can most likely make that like most of the time, it's like, that's possible. And so I love that. I think it's a miracle that, I got into this class and then with the idolatry and everything, especially during this time of year, I didn't realize how many I didn't realize how many things I still had from, that I had allowed in and that were not good for me or my family. And so I'm very thankful for, that miracle of, hearing what you were saying at the time whenever I needed to, so that I could do this final purge of everything, I don't worship trees or lights or anything like that, but they're attached to something that's not that isn't light. And so, and just that connection felt very, very real to me. And that you mentioned the rabbi telling his son, no, that's not light, that's dark. And so I just did this huge purge, and it was really good, and I'm very thankful, and I feel more light for it. But it's almost like, like you're searching for hametz, like before pure, I believe before Purim, whenever you're trying to get all the leavened bread out of your house, it's like, trying to like throw away everything that has anything to do with idolatry. It's a task.
There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff.
I mean, like stockings,
Sure.
like bulbs, cards. I had like 10 years of cards, from people and stuff. And it's
Sure.
just like, I love them. I don't need to keep the card. It can go.
Exactly. My daughter buys wrapping paper in the dollar store. She didn't know the cute little snowmen. She didn't notice the little trees in the back, like, oh, well, they want that. Like, yeah, you're right. You're right. You have to really pull out that chametz magnifying glass and check. And there's a lot of stuff. It was actually interesting. I had someone in another class of mine. I don't remember the details of what was going on in her life. Was she having miscarriage? I don't even remember. I think she was having miscarriages. Something was happening. And I don't remember how she came to this. Maybe a rabbi told her. But somehow she understood that these, again, I think it was miscarriages, were connected to having some idolatry or something in her house. She couldn't figure out what it was. I mean, she's an Orthodox Jewish woman. And she's searching her house. What could it be? And then she found her husband, I guess when he was in college or those times of year before they were married, he was like traveling Europe, and he had taken lots of pictures by famous sites, including many churches. So he had many pictures with crosses and churches in them, and she just got rid of all of them. That's what she thought was that idolatrous energy that was in her house and causing this damage. So you're right. It's you're not. Yeah, you're saying it's a stocking. It's a card. But yeah, all these physical items are linked to this very big energy that's behind it all. So that is a miracle. It's a miracle you got on. It's a miracle we're discussing this. It's a miracle it coincides with this time of year. I'm not claiming to have deliberately realized, or I should have. It just sort of happened, which is, of course, God's hand, and that's the miracle hand. Absolutely. Jenny, what about you?
Yeah, first, I would like to thank, Hashem, for changing my life. I am just grateful because I had this, a great awakening that I knew about Hashem and the Mashiach. And I am so grateful, that I learned about that. And also, the things that changed in my life, that's, I could say, my life changed like no effort for me, just a little bit. It's a little bit, sad, but it's okay. I'm gonna get used to it. Like, some of my friends, I don't have to kick them out. They're gone. So I'm not happy about it, but I cannot associate with some of the things that they're doing anymore. And I'm okay with it because I think that, sometimes you have to sacrifice, and stand for what is right, what is the truth. So, but deep inside, I'm happy because I feel a lot closer, to Hashem. And yeah, that's it. I'm grateful for all the changes, and the idolatry, I get rid of them, and I'm gonna go to my storage. Maybe there's some.
Now Christelle got you thinking, right?
Yeah,
but stockings there.
Yeah, my storage is not in my building. It's in another building, but in my house, it's clean now. It's clear. So yeah, I am thinking to go there next week and get rid of, even it's far from my house, it's my storage.
It's yours.
It shouldn't have anything, like that. So that's it. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for everyone, for all of you guys, because I feel a bit, I feel happier when I see people that thinks the same, and that's it. I don't feel alone, at least. Yeah.
That's
Thank you.
beautiful. That's beautiful. No, it's true. It's true. Even like Christelle said, the energy feels lighter, or you're happier when you're getting rid of these things and they're no longer there. These are physical, tangible weights from this energy, and it's gone. It should change the feeling in your heart. It should change the feeling in your home. It should feel lighter. And there is sacrifice. You're saying sacrifice of friends and things you can no longer do, and which in the end feels better, but at the time is a sacrifice. It is a sacrifice, and that's really great to prioritize God, you know, to sacrifice for God, to prioritize God. I always feel whenever we're putting God first, it's like who's doing a favor for who, you know. When we do that, you know, if I put God in front of other things, it's like, wow, I'm so amazing. I'm putting God first. You know, I'm helping myself more than I'm helping God by putting God first. It's allowing me to be so close to him. It's allowing me to be open up to all his energy, his blessings, his presence. It's totally bequeathing myself with limitless, priceless gifts. But when we're doing it, when we're in the trenches, instead of feeling, wow, I'm so grateful that God gave me this opportunity to serve him, it can more be like, wow, I'm really putting God first. This is really heavy duty sacrifice. It's like sometimes on the Sabbath, something happens that I'd like to do something, but I don't because it's a Sabbath. So for me, it's not going to be driving in a car or talking in my phone or using my computer. I mean, I wouldn't think of any of those things for me to give it a Sabbath. It's more like if there's like a bug in my house that I can't get rid of, or, you know, something like that. Something's spilled and it's all dirty and I can't clean it up properly, you know, along those lines. And I'm like, okay, God, this is a beautiful opportunity to serve you because it's a Sabbath. I can't do this. And, you know, so thank you for the opportunity to proactively serve you and keep the Sabbath. So it's true for all of us, for anything that's the sacrifice or difficult or, you know, requiring you to like tighten your belt, so to speak, for God. It's wow, thank you to have this opportunity to proactively serve you. You know, of course I believe and I study, and here I'm giving up something. I'm giving up something because I'm putting you first. So thank you for the opportunity to really serve you like that. And again, Hanukkah is the time of miracles. It's a time to really stop and think of the miracles in your life. I you know, I think of miracles. I think of God's hand for me. I think of God's kindnesses. And you feel very full, very rich, very blessed. Very full, very rich, very blessed by God. And that's a great space to be in, because from that space you go on and you bring more light into this world. You know, we illuminate, and then we illuminate some more, and we illuminate some more. And it's a limitless process of getting closer and closer to God. That's what it really is, closer and closer and closer to God. Okay, does anyone have anything else they'd like to add about Hanukkah and miracles and feeling God in their life?
I need to make a correction. I don't know why I said Purim, Passover.
Yeah, I knew you meant Passover. P and P, you know, it all works. Around Purim is when you start cleaning for Passover, so it made sense. Anyone else have something they'd like to add, an addendum to their miracles and their gratitudes? Okay, so it was interesting what Christelle said, how, you know, this time of year, I mean, she's right, it's really appropriate you're talking about idolatry. So let's, so we're talking here, continuing this idea of the prohibition against aiding idol worshipers. So you are not allowed to do anything that can make anyone else transgress the Noahide laws. Just like I had that conversation with Jenny, right? We're talking about tattooing, right? So we were saying that you can't put a tattoo of a cross on someone because just as they can't have it, so you can't help them have it. And if you remember, there was this famous case in America, I think it was like a baker who refused to bake a cake for a same-gender wedding. And, you know, he was like, he couldn't do it. And he was right, he couldn't do it. Because it's not enough to say, hey, it's not my deal what they're doing. You can't help someone else do something that's a violation of what God wants. So aiding, abetting, supporting, being part of it is something you're not allowed to do. Now, if the people are gathering and it's not really religious, it's more just cultural, they're not going to do anything specifically that's a worship of an idol, meaning it's not like in a church, someone's having a seasonal party in their house, even though, of course, it is connected to idolatrous customs, but they're not proactively doing anything that will be a worship there, then you know, you could do something that would help that party. You shouldn't go to it. But you could do something, you know, if it's your business to sell flowers and they're buying flowers for their personal party, and you know there's not going to be any idolatrous ceremonies involved, it's not a problem. If they're buying it for their church, it is a problem. If they're buying it for a wedding, and at the wedding there's going to be ceremonies that relate to these belief systems, it's a problem. You know, so it would sort of a little touchy subject, you know, what is and what isn't. So obviously, when these people are celebrating a festival for their religion, praising one of their idols, you can't attend the celebrations, you can't support it, anything that would have to do with literally the service. Obviously, when they're giving gifts to each other, which relates to these idolatrous customs, it's better not to be involved at all, since it's strengthening an idolatrous custom. Again, if you know that neither party, neither the giver or the receiver, is viewing it as anything to do with a religious issue, it's just like a nice time of year to give gifts, then, like, if they're giving you one, you could accept. It's not forbidden, but it's better not to. You know, again, it's not a crime, because, like, if at your work on December 25th or the 24th, the boss gives everyone a gift, a gift, you're allowed to take it, because he's not really doing it in connection with any religious customs. It's just, oh, this is a time of year when we give a gift, we give a holiday bonus, or, you know, same thing like Thanksgiving, if they're going to give you a bottle of wine or a turkey or whatever, you know. So if it's just a custom like that, then you'd be allowed to take it. So again, ideally better not, but it's not forbidden because there's no religious implication. Obviously, if there was any religious implication, if this was by a really religious person, so you know there's a religious implication, then it's a problem. In America, most Christians are not really religious in that way. So it's not as much of a problem to accept a gift, but ideally better not, especially not like on the 25th or something like that. So if this idol worshiper is celebrating a personal thing, let's say like a marriage, making a gathering in like a church, in a place where there's idol worship, in which there's going to be held a religious ritual, like the marriage ceremony connected to a religious ritual, or praising his idol, then it's forbidden to attend the celebration. The same way, if someone passed away in a family, and there's going to be a commemorative funeral gathering in a church, or even if it's not in a church, but if there's religious items there, incense being burned, things that have to do for the purpose of the idolatry, then it's also forbidden to attend. It's always forbidden to sell things directly connected to a type of idolatry, either to an idolater who practices that type of idolatry or in a place where that type of idolatry is practiced. So, you know, you couldn't be selling those lights that you decorate the house with now in America, even though you're saying, oh, it's business. I mean, there are, like you're saying, there's people, you know, whatever. There's lots of commercial industry around all of these things. So you say, I have no belief in anything. I'm just making a few bucks, or more than a few bucks. Totally forbidden. Which again, if you happen to be in a service that has nothing to do with any of this, it's very simple. But if you happen to be in a service that does have to do with this, it can become very, very, very complicated. You know, it's not. It's. Some people say that if the idol worship will be able to buy the same merchandise, the same quality, the same price from other merchants, it's not prohibited to sell to them because you're not aiding or harming his practices. Because if he doesn't go to your store, he can go to the one next door and get the same things. Other people say, no, you're not allowed to. And again, there's a famous story actually with the father of Rashi. Rashi was one of the greatest Torah and Talmudic scholars that ever lived. One of the greatest teachers of Torah that ever lived. He has a foundational commentary both on Torah, on all the written law, and all the written books of Torah, the writings, the prophets, the writings, and he also has over the entire Talmud. So perhaps the greatest teacher of Torah that ever lived. And his father was a gem merchant. And his father once came across, I don't remember what type of jewel it was, but like this unbelievable jewel. Unbelievable, what was it, diamond, a sapphire, a ruby, I don't remember what it was, but unbelievable. And however he got it, I don't know. But of course, he realized this is living in the Middle Ages in France, that, you know, there'd be a lot of pressure on him from the church to buy it from him. And obviously, if he refused, it'd probably be his life. And I don't remember all the details of the story, but the church came to him, and maybe he thought he could sell it to the king, but whatever, the church got there first. And they said, hey, you know, we need this, they need this, we want to buy from you for a very good price. They weren't stealing it, this, you know, amazing gem. It'll be beautiful in our statue, in Rome, whatever. It was an amazing, amazing, amazing gem that was worth a fortune of money. And he was a merchant. Obviously, he invested a lot of money in the gem, and now the church wanted it, and they were willing to sell it to him, and he didn't know what to do. Obviously, he didn't want to sell it to them. Obviously, he forgave all the profit he'd earned selling it. But he knew if he would say no to the church, I mean, they could start a pogrom against all the Jews of France. Like, you know, you can't tell the church, no, I'm not selling this to you. I'm going to send this to the king and make a bigger profit. Like, you know, he couldn't say anything like that. He was very stuck. So he tried to think, what could he do? He came up with a plan. And he said, wow, you know, I'd love to have such an honor of selling my jewel to the church, to the Pope, to Rome. You know, oh my gosh, what an honor. I'd be so, so, so honored to do that. This is such an honor. I personally want to go and deliver this jewel to, again, wherever it was, maybe the Pope, something like that. I want to personally go to deliver this jewel, because it's such an amazing honor for me that something of mine is going to decorate this statue. Like, wow. Okay, very nice, sure. So they took him on the ship with his beautiful, amazing jewel that he had invested a fortune of money into. And as he's on the ship one day, and he's so excited, he's going to Rome, I think it was Rome. It was some big church somewhere. He's going to Rome. He's going to give them this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful diamond. And he's sort of taking it out. Everyone was, whoa, he'd take it out. He would admire it. He would show it to the other people on board. Everyone admired it. Someone got very used to him taking it out and looking at it and admiring it. And everyone's, yeah, this is a festive occasion. And one day he took it out and admiring it as he was leaning by the water, and it slipped from his hands and fell into the water. Oh my gosh. I can't believe it. There went that jewel. There went the whole purpose of this trip. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad. Here I lost my jewel. I invested so much money in it. I was gonna get such a profit. I was gonna have this amazing personal visit to wherever, and it's all gone in the waters. Oh yeah, yeah. Everyone's felt so bad for him because here, obviously the jewel cost him a tremendous amount of money, and he lost the money he invested. He lost the profit, the whole waste of all of his time personally traveling, and everyone felt really bad for him that schlemazel that he was, he let the jewel slip into the water. So he went back home, out a lot of money, and had saved himself from eating an idol and had not caused any Jew to be harmed in the process. And it says that a heavenly voice came out and said, for you giving up your jewel, that's light shone and illuminated the eyes, I'm going to give you a jewel that will illuminate the eyes. And a year later, and they were very old and childless, their son, Shlomo, was born, who grew up to be Rashi. As I'm saying, perhaps the greatest teacher of Torah the Jewish people ever had. Perhaps. It's a big title, so I don't know if I should be the one to confer it, but definitely up there in the top. Definitely when we have the Mashiach and we're going to have the Sanhedrin and the 120 greatest Torah scholars of all times, I have no question he's going to be on board. You know, and just look at that. Just look at what he sacrificed. He knows you're not allowed to aid idol worship. Even here, where it was literally, if he had refused, would have been his life, would have been the lives of who knows how many Jews. And yet God put a piece of wisdom in his head, how he was able to not harm any people, not aid the idol, and give up, you know, who knows how great that financial loss cost him. But he did it, not knowing that, well, then God's going to give me a son that's worth a lot more. But that's how God never stays indebted to us. There's an expression, God will never be a debtor, which means that for every good thing we do, God will never let us give him more than he gives us back. God just doesn't work that way because, hey, he's God. So whatever good we ever do, God always pays back more, just to make sure the books are clean. He always pays back more. Here, this person did an amazing thing. I mean, I don't know how much, perhaps all of his wealth was tied into that jewel. Perhaps he went bankrupt at this point. I have no clue. He had no choice, of course. Another Jew might have said of less moral caliber, I don't want to, I'm not looking to. What was I supposed to do, refuse them and start a pogrom? And maybe I'm going to give away all the profits I earned because I didn't want to earn any money from them, but I had no choice. But he figured out a way not to be part of idolatry and to lose a fortune in the process. And God said, I'm not going to let you give me more than I give you back. So you lost a fortune, I'm going to give you a fortune. I'm going to give you a child. I'm not just giving you a child. I'm going to give you such a special child whose light will shine far brighter than this diamond. So that's how far we have to go in this concept, which again, for most of us nowadays is not so relevant and not such a challenge. But again, mentioning that baker situation that was pretty famous in America situation, like, I mean, depending on what your business is and where you live, what time of year it is, you know, these things can come up. And there's many laws along these lines. Like, I mean, there's so many details here. Like, if in an idol worshiping place, there was a pool or a garden associated with it, or any shop or project whose profit is dedicated to the salary of the idol's priests or to the upkeep and maintenance of the idols, you could benefit from it if you're not charged, because then you're not aiding the idol financially. But if you have to pay, if there's an entrance fee, if you're doing anything then you can't. So let's say even like charities, like let's say if you have old clothing to give away, so you wouldn't be allowed to give them away to a resale shop, you know, to a charity that's connected to a church, of which many are, because you have no clue what they really do with the money and who's the money going to, even if they're saying they're using it all to feed starving children in India, but you have no clue, because obviously it's starving children that are coming to the church and are being taught church doctrine, and you know what I'm saying, that's how these things work. So if you're giving them your old clothes and then they sell those clothing and then they make money, and then that money they make, they use one way or another to support church activities, even if it is, like I'm saying, through giving needy people food. But it's like I know they have in Israel, you know, where they would target, you know, they have a lot of missionaries in Israel that target, say, poor, ignorant Jews, and they'll give them food and they'll give them clothing, and they're giving them lots of church doctrine at the same time. You know, it comes with a price tag. So you're giving them food. I'm sorry, if you're giving your old clothing there or your old furniture there, that would be considered aiding the idol worship. Even though you're just looking, you feel bad to throw it out. You don't know who else will come to your door and pick it up. You know, you got to say, well, I can't give it to the Salvation Army, but maybe I can, you know, you have to, where can you give it? You have to think, because if it's going ultimately to support a church, you're not allowed to do it. So we actually mentioned this next law in terms of Black Friday. It came up that if it's a town of idol worshipers preparing for the festival for their idol, and you have shops that are decorated, you know, as part of the holiday spirit. So if you have some shops decorated and some shops not, you're not allowed to patronize the shops that are decorated. Because the assumption is that they're adorned for the sake of the idol worship. So if you're buying merchandise in that store, you're supporting the owner, who you have no clue is perhaps supporting the idol worship. Maybe he's be donating funds for idolatrous purposes. So again, it's not saying the whole year you're not allowed to go into that store. But if it's this time of year, especially if you live in a place where you know the people are actually really religious about it, and their decorations really do show their religious beliefs, then you're not supposed to shop in those stores. Now, obviously, if there's no alternative available, which means every single store is decorated, and the undecorated store is an hour and a half away, so you could buy what you need there. Like, you're not supposed to buy extras, but if something's a necessity, you could buy it. But definitely, if you have a choice, I remember there was someone that used to attend the class. She lived like in the South. I don't know if you have this down in Alabama, Crystal, where I remember where she lived, some little hick town in somewhere in the South. And it was, she says, very religious, like the only thing, you know, everything was decorated, you know, and they meant it, you know, they're, one of the, small Southern towns, that style. And so everything's religious, and everything's decorated, and they mean it, So it's, it's again, it depends. Did you have to drive an hour or two away to find another store to buy milk or bread? No, but if there was an option of something that wasn't decorated, she was supposed to go there. So again, depending on where you live and what the culture is and what type of people they are, this could be, this time of year, very relevant. So by the same token, if you have an option, you're not supposed to rent a store, rent a home from idol worshipers because you're giving them a profit, unless there's no alternative available. That's the only way you have a roof over your head or for your business. So let's say somebody inherited, let's say somebody's parent were idol worshipers, and the idols or religious items or books of idolatry were inherited to be split among the children, among the whole inheritance. Everything their parents owned was split among the children. And let's say one child is a Noahide and one child is not. So the Noahide cannot tell his sibling, you take this and I'm going to take this instead. You know, I give you all the idols, all the crosses, all the books, all the incense. You take all that, I'm going to take this. I'm going to take the equivalent amount in their money. You use this anyway. I don't use this, so it's a good deal. It's the opposite. He has to take his entire portion of the inheritance. Like, let's say there was this amount of idols, idol worship, incense, pictures, statues, you name it, they had it. 2 children, one's a Noahide, one's not a Noahide. The Noahide cannot tell his brother, you take all this is worth $10,000 and I'll take 10,000. You're going to use it, you're going to respect it, for me it's garbage, deal. No, we'll do that. You have to take your portion and then you have to destroy it. Destroy it, or as we discussed, nullify it if that's possible, not to facilitate somebody's serving idols. But if you tell your sibling you take all that, then you're facilitating your siblings serving idols. Therefore, you're not allowed to do it. Now, just like you're not allowed to worship idols, you can't go in the ways of those that serve idols. Meaning, there's ways, there's patterns of behavior, how people behave, that way back started off as part of aiding this whole religion, this whole belief system. And maybe nowadays people don't even associate it as part of the religion. They don't associate anything religious per se. But it's just part of what one does in that culture. You're not allowed to do that either. Like, for example, a lot of times people that worship idols have the idea of a magician or a diviner or a soothsayer or a witch, a charmer, a medium, a wizard. All of these people nowadays that would, claim to be able to see things or raise the dead or see the future, or, you know what I'm saying? All these types of things, even though these people today might not in any way connect it to any religious practice, their origins all stemmed in these idolatrous beliefs. So therefore, you can't utilize them today even as a entertainment at a party. Because this is where they're coming from. They're branches of idolatrous service. And therefore, even though they could be complete disbelievers, but their very practice promotes on a spiritual level, on an energy level, idolatry. All of these things are forbidden, meaning it is forbidden to go to anyone who will say they can see the future or speak to the dead or read your palm, tell your horoscope. Any of these types of things are all biblically forbidden. They're not per se listed under the Noahide laws, in meaning it's not a capital punishment if someone did any of these things, but they're all absolutely forbidden because they all are indirect accessories to idol worship. Meaning even the person who's telling your horoscope, reading your palm, looking at your lifelines, all that stuff, they're not speaking, they're not connecting it to any form of religion. Doesn't make a difference. That's the roots of all of this. And therefore, it's all absolutely forbidden under the prohibition of idolatry. And even though they might not be promoting idolatry, they might not be connecting themselves, they might or they might not. Obviously, if they connect themselves to an idol, it's forbidden. But even if they're not claiming they get powers through an idol, they're not, nothing. it's still forbidden because it really is where it's coming from, even if this person isn't speaking about it or even thinking about it like that.
Miss Corinne,
Mhm.
just a quick question. What about like card tricks and stuff like that? I mean, does it go that deep into it?
That's an excellent question. Cards in general are considered very evil.
Like even like rummy cards and stuff?
So it's best, if you like to do like card tricks, not to have a real traditional pack of playing cards. Like let's say you have a pack of Uno cards. That's fine. But the real ace and the spade and the king and the queen, like a traditional pack of playing cards, again, it's sort of the same idea. It actually is an amazingly similar concept. You're actually completely right. It's just, it has hundreds of years of association with gambling, with lots of forbidden things that were happening at those types of events where cards are being pulled out and played. So cards in general are considered something that have a lot of evil in them.
Oh, so like a regular, so because I have like children's like rummy cards with animals on them and stuff like that. And
so that would be okay because it's not real cards anymore. Because now
but I
you're
also
saying
have real card decks too, so I should get rid of those.
Real card decks are not a good idea.
Okay.
But if it's something else, like it got shifted, like I'm saying, that's what I'm saying, like a Uno deck of cards is fine to do all the magic tricks with or something like that because it's not real cards. But something that's a real deck of cards, yeah, it's actually the exact same idea in a sense. It just has absorbed a lot of evil by association. I can't think of a better way than putting it than that. There's a lot of evil by association in these things. And there's lots of things that we don't even realize. We don't even realize how far it traces back. I remember at a certain point, they were saying in terms of wigs, question people raised was, wait a minute, they found out that these wigs with human hair from India, so the Indian women would like cut their hair for certain idolatrous practice there, and then the priests or whatever would use this hair and would sell it. And then people would buy it and make wigs out of it. And it's like, wait, are we allowed to buy these wigs? Are we indirectly, not so indirectly, supporting this whole idolatrous, group in India? So like sometimes, it's not so obvious. And obviously, it's not that you have to look at every item in your home and wonder, does it have idolatrous origins? But there are some things that do, it's amazing. So in trying to understand a little bit these ideas, maybe it's a little bit late to start this now. Maybe well, soothsaying is the idea if you're setting a sign for yourself and you act according to it without any logical connection between the sign and the action or non-action. That would be soothsaying, that's forbidden. But if there's a sign that's logical, then it's permissible. Like we have in the Torah, that when Eliezer was looking for a wife, he said, well, the girl that's going to come and she's going to draw water and she's going to give it to me and she's going to give it to all my camels. So it was very logical. He's saying somebody who has such good character traits and traits of kindness will be fitting wife for Isaac, who was raised in a house of kindness, who obviously wants to follow in that road. So that sign wasn't a random sign that he's making for himself. It was a sign that connected to a logical premise, and therefore it's totally permissible. Now, if you see something in the past as a good sign, that's also okay. Like you could say, oh, this house that I built was a good sign for me because I built a house and then I see lots of good things happen. Or the spouse I married is blessed because I see once I married her, my life became much better. All husbands should say that about their wives. Or this child that I brought is blessed because, this child that was born is blessed. Once a child came to our life, suddenly our life is so much better and so many things are working out, that's fine. Because that's not saying, if a child is born to me, that's a sign that God, you're just making something up in your head and you don't want to do that. But if you see that this good thing happened, like the house or the spouse or the child, and then after that, many other good things followed suit, you could say that this was, you know, this was something good that God was doing for you. Meaning, you can't do something like in the future, like if my wife is expecting a child, and if it's a boy, that's a sign I should do this and this and this. And if it's a girl, that's a sign I should do this and this and this. That's forbidden, because you're making this up in your head. You can't determine or non-determine an action, determine to do or determine to not do something because of something you decided based on what's going to happen. You're saying this means this or this means that. How do you know what it means? But if in the past you see that God blessed you after you got married, suddenly your life became much more blessed. After you had a child, your life became much more blessed. That's fine, because what you're doing is not, you're acknowledging the blessings God gave you through this medium, and that's totally fine. You could also even take this a step further. If you, again, let's say you had a child, and after the child, there were 3 specific amazing successes that happened, all in close proximity to the birth of the child. You could say definitely, well, the birth of the child brought a lot of blessings to my life because this happened and this happened and this happened. You could even say, in the future, probably having more children will bring more blessings to my life. Because look how God opened up these channels of blessings after this child. You could do the same thing for, let's say, building a house. You built a house, and then after you had the house, this good thing happened, this good thing happened, this good thing happened. I see God probably is happy that I am settling his world. I built a house, I bought a house, and look, all this good that fell into my lap. Probably in the future, if I would buy another house, I would likewise see God's blessing, because I see this is something God wants me to do because he's giving such blessings. That you're allowed to say. Now, probably this is going to be a sign of blessings. So if I'm going to build another house or have another child, I assume more blessings will come because I see God is blessing me when I'm doing these things. That's permissible. But the converse of that wouldn't be permissible. It wouldn't be permissible to say, if I build a house, that is a sign that this good thing is going to happen. And if I am trying to buy a house and the deal falls through, this is a sign that this negative thing is going to happen. You can't postulate forward, but you could look back and see how God responds. So if I see that God responded to my buying the condo with all these overt blessings, at least 3 overt blessings that happened in proximity, I could say it looks like God's happy that I bought this condo. And probably in the future, if I would buy something, God will be happy and will give me more blessings. That you're allowed to do. But to say, if the deal of the condo goes through, that's a sign that this, I should do this or I shouldn't do that, that you're not allowed to do. It's a little tricky, but hopefully I made it clear. Any questions on any of this? Any questions, any comments on any of this? Okay. Well, glad you joined us, and you should have a wonderful week. As I said, it's a week of Chanuka. It's a time of great wonders and miracles flooding the world. It's when God's positive, miraculous energy coming from our love for him, our self-sacrifice for him, is shining. I hope we shall experience this week, and hope the world should experience this week the wonders and the miracles of Hanukkah. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great week. Thank you.
Week.